a man that needs no introduction. He has so many ideas and is so creative that he will be able to talk about anything and everything until you are convinced of his point. So without further ado, let me introduce you to James. Hi, James.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. How are you? Good to
I'm
see you,
good.
Kathleen.
How are you?
Wide and awake. Wide awake. Which one is it? Wide and awake or wide awake? Obviously, I'm not wide awake, or I would know how to say that. So I'm doing great. Thank you for asking.
Oh, wonderful. So let's dive into your life a little bit. I always do this with my guests, and I would love to do this with you as well.
Sure.
I love to learn where your entrepreneurial journey started and how did you choose this?
Yeah. Entrepreneurial journey. It's really, to be honest with you, I could start with my current business, which is as a photographer. In 2014, August. However, I would actually say that it started when I was 7 years old, more like it. And I coming from a small town in Mississippi. And how is that? So what is entrepreneurship? It's taking responsibility for yourself and what you're doing. And so my father said two things. It was very simple. If you want to grow a patch of watermelons, I will let you take all the profit from them at the end of the summer. I'm 7 years old. Okay.
Wow.
So this is my introduction. I had already been, watching my father do what he does. And I helped him plant the seeds. I helped him till the ground to begin with. And then after school, I'm in the second grade. My job was to come home and to make sure that the weeds are chopped down away from the watermelons. And I did it. I did it until the summer came, because it was spring when we planted them. And so school's still going. And this summer, I'm able to work. And then I harvested those watermelons. And my grandfather happened to have a convenience store at the time. And so he helped me to take those and transport them to the convenience store. And then I would spend my afternoons at my grandfather's convenience store. As a 7-year-old, I would say, "Do you want to buy a watermelon? Do you want to buy a watermelon?" And I would pick up the little watermelons and I would walk to the car, and those people would buy those watermelons and I sold them. So I was not only indoctrinated into knowing how to take care of the garden, but also had to learn to be a salesperson at 7 years old. Now, this is obviously not everybody's background, and you don't need to have that to get started, but it comes from there. That's really where it started. I understood at that early age that if you just follow and trust, start with, that's important, and just put in the work that's necessary, that it will reap results. And that's exactly what the benefits of entrepreneurship is. There was obviously no other option as a 7-year-old to make money. So it was to work for yourself or don't have anything. So children really have the best opportunity to learn entrepreneurship by thinking, what can I do? And unfortunately, I don't really see parents giving their kids too many duties and responsibilities and teaching them how to earn money. My father, again, was an entrepreneur as well himself. So he just instilled those values in me, and they go forward. So my latest journey started in about 2014 as a professional photographer. Once again, it starts off with me asking a question: how can I take a camera and make money with it? So the difference between being an entrepreneur and a hobbyist is that you actually make money with something that you can produce yourself. And so how did that journey start? It starts with a desire. Number one, you must have a desire to think of, why do I want to be an entrepreneur? For me, I understand the flexibility of the lifestyle. It's not easy. It's more difficult by far than getting up and going to work for somebody else. So maybe, I don't know if I'm getting into the mindset of what it takes to get started. So don't go thinking, I'm going to be an entrepreneur because my life is going to be easier. I actually think I'm going to have to work 3 times as much as normal to be an entrepreneur. but the benefits are, you create synergy. The benefits may be 30 times better of a life, but 3 times as much work. And this is something a person must have, you know, in their heart, is this like understanding of why and this desire. And, you know, like you were saying earlier, you must believe that those fruits exist. So I already knew as a child that the fruits existed. It was just about, do I have something that I enjoy enough? And then it's going to make me get up out of the bed and work at it. It's going to be whatever the topic is. I'm going to like to read about it. If you enjoy to read about what it is you want to work, if you like talking to people about what it is you want to do for work, then, you know, for me, that's how I got into being a photographer. I like talking about photography. I would share my images. I bought a book back when I was in Brazil before becoming a professional photographer. I laid the groundwork by listening, by reading, by studying, you know, preparing as much as possible, by trying to learn from other people before even taking the venture. So I bought Tony Northrup's book back in, I think, 2013. And it was a very special ebook. And you buy the book. And then if you buy the book, it allowed you to become part of a Facebook group. And I started taking pictures and uploading them to this group. And the people inside the group would critique it and give feedback.
Oh,
and so one of the things about being an entrepreneur is being vulnerable, to be exposed and getting feedback. And so my story with this started this way. I started gaining more confidence and realizing that I knew what I was doing enough, at least to be dangerous, you know, and then I put myself out there. There's a point where you have to close the book, you know, and actually do it.
Start
you know,
taking action. Absolutely.
Start taking action.
So necessary. Definitely.
Yeah. Taking action. And so taking action sometimes, and you know, and for me was just finding somebody that needed my services, somebody that needed a problem solved. I need a headshot. They say, I found a job. Start with, you got to find people who need you. Because as humans, we must contribute somehow into the system. You must find a way to be of service to someone. It's not about me. It's about them as an entrepreneur, as a service provider, as an artist, as a photographer. It seems it's all about me. It's about what I want to construct and do. But as a entrepreneur, it's about how can you help the client out there? What can you do to solve their problem? And for us as a service provider versus a product, which is two different things, you have to really just satisfy your client as a service. And meaning like, okay, you want a headshot made, so I have to go in and take headshots. Oh, you want them taken like this or like this? So I have to ask questions, and I have to be inquisitive to think of what it is my client wants. And then I work really hard at satisfying their need. And if they're happy, and if you can make somebody happy, because I know it's a hard thing to do, but if you can make your client happy, you can earn a testimony. You can earn some feedback. You know, your expectations when you first start have to be that you have to earn respect. You have to prove that you know what you're doing, and maybe without money, you know, because the money has to come after you build your own self-confidence up. I think a lot of people are demanding money before they actually have the confidence and stuff that it takes. And so what that means is like, oh, I got paid $150 in my first job. Oh, wow, cool. But maybe I didn't even know what I was doing. I happened to buy paid training. Maybe I tricked somebody or something. But you can't trick the system. You can't trick yourself. You can't trick who you are. You must prove to yourself that you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that you're confident in what you're doing. And you can
create, and you can deliver results.
Right. You deliver results, and those results, whatever they are, like on my first job, I would say I got a maybe. I'd never forget the first headshot job. I did everything perfect except turn my camera up. I was so excited and so nervous. Not nervous in a bad way. I was just anxious, a little anxious. Like, oh wow, I got these big corporate guys, and I'm here taking their headshot, and I do everything perfect. I practiced in the house and rehearsed everything before the shoot. You know, rehearsing, like imagining I'm there before going there, and then when I show up, your camera's in horizontal mode and vertical mode, and I left it in this landscape mode, taking headshots. Did everything perfect. The shots looked great. They loved them, except the client that I was providing them to needed them to be in headshot mode to fit on their website. So I learned, you know, I got good results, but I learned, and I said, oh, okay, next time. And that's a constant process of learning.
And that's beautiful that you mentioned that, because I do know a lot of people that, you know, put themselves down because we do make mistakes along the way. And it's about, you know, perfecting it as you go, not at like knowing it all in the beginning. And you know, it's beautiful that you shared that, and people can definitely, you know, hear that as much as you're prepared, sometimes things do go wrong. And
yes.
Do you want to share like more stories?
Absolutely.
I know, like for example, as far as, you know, the coaching industry goes, I know you have a little bit of a background in that as well, and you combine that beautifully with pictures as well, and you tell
Yep.
stories. But I know as entrepreneurs, we sometimes struggle to find the place where we can fit it all in. Or we, you know, we think we should be somewhere, or we're afraid of experiencing, you know, something because we're going to miss out on something else. Yeah, to talk about your thought process as far as that goes.
As coaching, about it being like working as a coach itself, or just
Everything combined,
in
because I do know you have a depth of understanding people, and you have a way of relating it to pictures where it takes something that is just a thought process and you're putting it into a more tangent or
absolutely
tangible way.
I really had a lot of self-reflection going on while coaching. I'll speak from the perspective of why getting into coaching. I've always had this desire to try to create peace in my environment. So once again, that's a goal of mine, and that's a goal in my relationship. I have a belief system. A relationship is a good relationship is like a good symphony or good band. You know, it has harmony in it, creates harmonies.
Beautiful.
And I like this in all things in my life. So I kind of have this desire to create harmony in everything that I do, you know, in any type of relationship. And so relationships for me are very important. People are important no matter what, whether it's your family, your friends, your business. You know, what gets you excited is having somebody that you can correlate with, you can talk to, you can share your ideas with, that wants to grow, that has a desire to grow alongside you. And so I'm getting a little distracted here, but all these, I have no idea. I got a WhatsApp messenger going off in the background. Sorry about that. So the thing that I would want to share that about coaching is that I really had to work on my own personal, intimate relationship a lot. And I really think that's what pushed me to go into the world of what is coaching. However, what I really particularly like to share is that back when I was around 17, 18, all the good structure and everything that helped me get to the place I wanted to be also was preventing me from being me in some kind of ways. I was a natural born explorer, a very curious person, wanting to know what's out there, and traveling started doing that for me. It started revealing to me things that I were told when I was younger were true. I was finding out things that I were told were true that were not true through traveling. And so I started traveling, became very passionate about it. and started doing it ritually. Every chance I could, I would look, oh, I can't wait to go back. I can't wait to go back and get some more of that, you know. And I kept doing that even through college. And then actually the motivation for me to graduate college was to travel. I was not, you know, my professors were telling me, hey, you really need to go work on your PhD. I graduated in economics from the university. They say, oh, you need to go and work on your PhD. You'd be a good candidate for that. And I was thinking to myself, no way am I going back right now. I have something that teaches me, and that's me personally, and that's traveling. I wanted to get out there. I wanted to go into the world. I wanted to learn from different cultures and different environments. That's what motivated me. That's what excited me. And that's what we all should follow, is that thing that you get excited about, not what everybody else is telling you to do. And so traveling helped me to realize my own definition of traveling. And through my life, and as I've evolved, I guess, as you can say, as a photographer and as an artist, I'm trying to think of how to put together how I would approach helping people. I have a natural desire to see people do more, to want to do more, because I know there's more, and it's exciting. It's the thought process of going back and being told as an 18-year-old that you must do this and you must do this and you must do this, and this was my instructions. And I learned that life can actually be fun and enjoyable, but you must have courage to go out there and discover that. You're not going to find that life is fun and enjoyable by following what somebody else told you to do. You have to follow what it is inside of your heart at all costs, no matter what. You have to do that. And how can I help people do that? It's through my own life experience. Yeah, I have a certification from coaching. I have a certification to give me the tools that I need to help guide people into a place where I need to be. But ultimately, I speak from my heart. Right. Ultimately, I speak from the background of somebody that metaphorically speaking, jumped off the cliff and learned how to fly. And that's what we have to do. I use images and metaphors to illustrate my stories today. As a photographer and kind of as a hobbyist poet, I put together phrases and words on top of my images that illustrate how powerful words and images are. So I absolutely cannot be fake, is what I want to say. There's nothing that I can possibly try to memorize and tell people what to do. I have to speak from here. It has to come from in here.
Your instinct.
And yep. And I that instinct though is backed up by a real true trial, living life, like going through the fire. I apologize. Once again, I get distracted. Is there any way we can pause this video? Because I have a lot of WhatsApp messages going on in the background and it's really distracting me, and I'm going to have to cut it off. It's really something I can't believe that's happening right now, because I'm a member of a group and they're sending like a message every 2 seconds. Okay. And it's completely distracting me right now. So that's why I'm talking distracted. Let me cut this thing off. I'm going to mute this group. Okay, got that. Okay, I'm ready to go again. I have the computer and it's like bing, 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 bing in the background. I'm like, oh my God. Like right when I'm being interviewed, like, oh, I see these bingings going on and it's completely taking my focus away. So let's go back whenever you're ready.
No, we just can't keep going. It's funny because it's something in the interviews when I do them, there's something that happens that I think is so beautiful. Somehow normal life kind of kicks in, whether, it's a kid or your phone going off or a dog in the background or something happens. And I usually like to keep it real because I tell people, look, you have this idea that, once you're an entrepreneur, everything is like set to the side. You have all this privacy. You have
Perfect.
all these things that, can go smoothly. That's so far from the truth. And I want people to get a good idea. Look, there's going to be interruptions. Yes, you can, create that space for yourself, but it's a lot more challenging than people believe, especially if, you have other things going on. You have a child, you have,
Yeah.
it's life, literally. And, for a lot of people that love to work from home or travel the world, sometimes we don't have, the how to prevent all these interruptions from happening. So how do you manage those into, keep like going, and how do you, integrate it into what you're doing? So
Once again, you're talking about, that's the thing. There's some people that have a lot of self-discipline ingrained in their life, and that's good. And even the ones that do still need to have a partner sometimes, or still need to have a coach, or still need to have someone there, because we got to focus on what we want. That's how we do it. We can't focus on the thing that we don't want. It seems though, like in this case just now, like, oh, it's a message, ding, that pops up in the background, and then maybe another one, you're like, oh, you can ignore it. But then suddenly they start keep coming, like ding, 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 over and over. And suddenly you're like, okay, I got to pause. I'm doing something wrong. I didn't plan correctly. Let me adjust the plan just a little bit. But let's stay focused on where we're going. Sometimes that happens. We have a vision where we want to go, but we don't know that the storm of life is out there.
exactly.
It's always going to be out there somewhere, and we have to understand that we got to stay on course, right? We got to keep going that way. And that's why it's so vitally important to really know where we want to go. Absolutely.
100%. And like I said, life always throws us curveballs. It's a matter of, the mindset that we adopt when those curveballs do get thrown our way. What do we do with them? Do we sit there and, get upset or ponder on them and, lose our, focus to, like you said, towards the goal that we're going after, and, get distracted and go sideways? Or do we, say, okay, it happened, okay, let's move along, let's keep things going, let's keep that momentum.
Right.
So
it is, it's very true, very true. You're right. It's a perfect example of life. Life gets in the way of itself, it seems sometimes, but we're not a victim. We can't be a victim. We have to just, like you said, we have to understand that that's part of the process. It's not all roses. Like, the song, every rose has its thorn.
Mm-hmm.
This is perfect metaphor for us to remember.
Yeah, and I love it because you always find the right metaphor for whatever is being brought up. You always have the right metaphor to kind of explain it, and it's true. And since in today's day we can actually cut off the thorns, we can try to do that. But sometimes we still have one or two in there. That's
exactly. Yeah, one or two is okay. If it's just like all thorns and a little bush, just a little flower, then maybe well, you got to take what you got in it, but you move on. But I really think entrepreneurship though is about what I think also to be an entrepreneur doesn't mean to be the classic business person as well. I think that a true artist, a business person is a true artist. You can be an inventor, you can be a scientist, you can be a book writer. You're an entrepreneur in all of these categories. If you can make clothes, you can do embroidery, the photographer, whatever it is, you can be an entrepreneur. So thinking like the classic business person dressed up in a suit going and running a corporation, I'm a business person. No, a true entrepreneur is somebody who's doing something they love to do, and they figure out a way how to make money doing that. They figure out how to get paid to play. is basically what I think a true blue entrepreneur is. You have found yourself when you find yourself getting paid to do something that you absolutely can't wait to do again. And but the thing is, everybody keeps saying, oh, that's so hard to make money doing that. You can't make no money as a writer. You can't make no money as a photographer. Look, I'm a photographer, maybe one of the most competitive fields in the industry. Why? Everybody, including little children today, have a camera on their phone. So how can I possibly get paid to do that? It's through desire. You have to like what you want to do. You have to always remember that the cream rises to the top. That's laws of physics. They always will kick in. They'll kick in as an entrepreneur. You got to put in the work, though. You have to put it in on a daily basis. It's not something that's just going to be handed over. Like, oh, everybody wants, like you said, they think that being an entrepreneur is an easy way to make money. And let me go into coaching real quick, because I really, really get hung up about this. There's a lot of people who think they're going to go into coaching because it's going to be easy money. They think that it's going to be, oh, wow, I can get paid, good money by only talking. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. It doesn't work that way. We must have worked through life's problems. We must have come through them. And I don't care how big or small they are. But we have got to face our problems, and we got to work through them. And when we take on people, you're taking on a person that has a problem. There's no doubt about it. And so you're listening to their problem, and you're trying to figure out how to bring them out of that stuck spot they're in. And so how to do that, is something that requires a lot of skill, like a tour guide as a reference for myself. But find something that you enjoy giving tours of. If you can say I'm a tour guide, but don't, let's say, for example, you really don't like snakes and alligators. Well, don't be a swamp tour guide. Okay. Mm-hmm. Don't be a swamp tour guide, but you say, well, I really like flowers and beautiful blooming fruit trees. Well, be a guide for people that goes into gardens and nature. Find your inner guide so that you can guide others. Don't go be somebody you're not.
About. What makes sense for you. And just going back to I had a question. When you were talking about photography and basically, everybody being, having a camera on their phone, and you're talking about being a photographer and getting paid for it, how do you feel? Because I think this applies to any, entrepreneur, regardless of, the trade they're in. How do you go about finding your edge? What were some things that maybe you found in your journey that made you be able to stand out by who you are? Like, how do you show up in your authentic way to like allow you to be different from the rest?
Well, it really starts with you. Again, you have to find out what it is you really like. Like for me, I'm doing building photography mostly, and houses, commercial buildings, and I like to go into events. So I niched. Everybody said, oh, James, you really got to be a wedding photographer because that's where the money's at. That's where all the money is. And, and if you want to make money, that's what you got to do. And like, well, that's not the reason why I'm into photography. That's not the reason why James got into it. He got into it because he loves to travel. He likes to be outside. He likes to observe the natural environment along with man-made environment. So one of the things I like to do is tell a story with the camera. And it's literally something that's within. You have to have that storytelling mindset. What story do you want to tell?
Beautiful.
Like, you can't go tell somebody else's story. You can, but it's going to be kind of bland and boring. You're going to get paid good money maybe because you learn how to repeat some kind of process. But at the end of the day, all of us want to write our own personal story. We want to tell that. because we all have one. So don't go out trying to tell somebody else's story. Try to tell your own. And that's what I did with photography. I decided I was going to niche, if you will. I don't really like that word too much for some reason, but I like to focus on what I like. And I focused on buildings and properties because it engaged two things. It allowed me to travel and be outdoors also.
Now, have you tried anything before that to kind of help you get it, like narrow it down? Because again, the fact that you mentioned the word niche, there are so many people that run away from the word. And, you know I use specialty, but I also give people, the advice of like, look, don't focus too much on that as much as on like what makes your heart, happy, or, where you find that you are pulled.
Yeah.
That's really what, so talk about your process a little bit.
This right here's my process. There's a pen and a piece of paper and a quiet room with a cup of coffee. Okay.
Powerful.
For me, because I like coffee. You can drink tea, whatever beverage of your choice. And what you do, you write, do what? Yeah.
Mineral water.
Mineral water. Oh, I have my, that is, the water is the beverage of champions for sure. Every champion drinks it. And so we have to have a time to reflect, yeah. Without interference. It's a type of meditation. Meditation is also a word that is very misused, but in this case, meditating upon what it is you want to do in silence without distraction. And so my process to identify the name of my business, which is People and Places Photography, it come about because I was trying to figure out what it is that I really am wanting to photograph. What is interesting to me? And I would write words down, and I would start with a column, and I'd start writing. And then after a while, I circled all the different words that lined up and that were matching up. The things that I would do, like, what is James like? I'm a traveler. I love culture. I like actually people watching, kind of a natural born psychologist in a way, because I just love observing people and human behavior, animal behavior, and even plant behavior. Any type of behavior has always been attractive to me, and observe and watch happen, the process, because it just is interesting. I don't need a justification. It's interesting. And then I kept writing about, okay, you like to catch people while they're working in their work environment. Like, I like to photograph people when they're in that zone, like when they're not thinking, when they're so focused. So I love to take pictures of people while they're at work. And when they're in their thing, when they're doing themselves. And then I would keep writing about, I like mountains, and I like rivers, and I like streams, and all these different things kept coming to me. I like plants, and I just kept working through a process of trying to understand what it is that I personally enjoy to photograph. And I realized that it wasn't just one thing. I enjoyed the human aspect, which is people, and then other nature aspect, which is places, technically geography, the world. So I was like, there's people and places. Bam. I found my name for my business because of what I was interested in. It's almost a philosophy that comes out of my soul, if you will. And I grew from that, basically. But the process starts on paper.
Trial and you try things out. Obviously, in order to put it on paper, you've had to try some things that maybe you weren't so much in tune with. Mm-hmm. Because I think that's also part of the process. You don't have it figured out from the get-go. You kind of go along and you try things out, and you then try to fit what are some things that really describe you or sit well with you as you're doing them, or you're passionate, or you keep getting drawn towards them.
Right. Yeah. You got to put yourself in situations as an entrepreneur that pay money. Unfortunately, like the plants themselves, the dogs, they don't pay money. you can like photographing dogs and plants all day long, but unless you figure out a human who's interested in the pictures, you're not going to get any money.
Right.
So it's absolutely necessary to understand that we have to include people in our business.
Right.
Because right. And so dealing with people, and I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but putting yourself in a position where you, as an entrepreneur, where you have to ask for money. You have
Right.
to come
And I
to a
wasn't
place.
talking about, you know, that aspect, because I do feel
Okay.
like we've covered that a little bit. I was talking about how you find your way, you know, because I do know a lot
Okay.
of people that think that they have to have it figured out right from
Yeah.
the beginning, and they don't give themselves the chance to actually explore things. So
Oh
in
yeah.
order
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
really have a good understanding, sometimes, you know, there are people that are just, you know, natural at what they do and they know. But there are some people that need to find their ways. So in order for them to find their way, they need to experiment and not be afraid of the niche or the specialty, because there's nothing you're ever stuck with. Is, you know, but I do want people to explore, to give themselves the opportunity and the chance to explore things, and then, you know, figure out how they to make money. If there's someone out there that makes money doing what you love doing, then there's a possibility.
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, you got to put yourself out of the comfort zone all the time. You can say to yourself, "Oh, I would like to make more money. I would like to have more jobs." So if you're not making the money you want, it's probably because you're comfortable. It's probably because you haven't put yourself in an uncomfortable position. Like if you want, with events, I say, "Oh, I like people and I want to be around people." But there's an event coming up and I'm the main photographer and I've got to be I got to be able to engage 150 people.
Wow.
Right. So I have to get into there. And not only that, there's time shots where the people they're announcing awards and I got to shake hands. And so you've got one chance or literally 3 seconds to get it right. So you got to be prepared, and you got to put yourself in a position of failure to not get it right. But, you got to put yourself in an uncomfortable position. There's no other way to get experience because, right. Like, how can you experience something that you've never experienced before?
Right.
You can't. You just got to do it. You have to put yourself in the position that is there. And what you're saying is, it's not going to be the way you want it the first time. But the other part is, don't be too hard on yourself. Realize that is how it is supposed to be.
It's a process.
Put in your best effort, though. It doesn't mean, just show up and just do whatever, and then I'll get some feedback. No, go. You need to feel butterflies. If you're not feeling butterflies before the show, you haven't put the work in. If you don't feel anxious and nervous before going in, you haven't put the work in. If you are not scared to go do something, you haven't put the work in. You must be scared. You must be afraid. Those things are called adversity, and it's absolutely necessary to deal with them before you're going to be handed over the keys to success. There is no way around that. So how do you get there? Just plan and prepare, and then do as much as you can. But you have to go into the real world and fail. You have to go into the world and fail. But it's not failure. Failure is it's a stepping stone.
Right.
But
the people are afraid of that word, but it's not, and it's all it's all a matter of how you look at it. I look at it as learning. I don't look at it as failure. I don't think that word exists anymore in my vocabulary, because there is no failure. It's basically just lessons. Everything is meant to.
That's awesome. Something. You've converted that. Yeah, you can call it. You can, if you call it failure, you may believe it's failure. If you can learn that failure is a stepping stone, that's like, stepping stones are going to come or diminish the quality of it. This is what I do with images and metaphors. I wish I had one here. I have so many, like this one right here. Like, this is completely different. Here's one here that I've made of Los Angeles. And I don't know if you can see this, but it says, life
is as big as you make it. Oh, that's beautiful. Wow, what a
all right.
great, wow.
That's Los Angeles. That's the city of Los Angeles in the background. This is a friend of mine. This is a friend of mine that dreams to be a comedian one day. And he had been dreaming of going to LA for over 20 years. I got him in the car and I took him out there.
Wow. You know what that reminds me of?
What's that?
Jim Carrey's story. Do you know it?
A little bit about his dad, right?
About his dad and going up to Mount Holland, I believe, or
okay.
And he kept saying that, you know, he's this big actor, and he was literally just living that before it even happened. And he wrote a check to himself. I can't remember exactly the amount. It was $5 or $10 million, and he put it in his pocket and kept it in his wallet. And he kept showing up, impersonating his future self, to the point where he actually got paid for, I believe it was Dumb and Dumber. Okay. Just 5 years within a 5-year time frame. So it's really powerful to actually put yourself in that position and see yourself, you know, being that person that you want to be. And he saw it before it happened. He had that belief.
That's beautiful. And I mean, to his story, because it's so legit and it's real. And
so many
he's a very, very intelligent guy. That's a philosopher, really. I've listened to him talk. And going back to the metaphor thing and talking about the word failure and flipping it over and turning it into obstacle. I mean, I have another metaphor. It says, turn your obstacles into stepping stones, you know, bouncing. And so what happened is I was given a talk, that particular metaphor, turn obstacles into stepping stones, came about through a live talk that I was giving. There was this lady who was presenting her products for sale, and then I was going to talk about life, power, metaphors, and phrases. And so I started going around the room asking people what their definition of traveling is, right? And I wanted to hear, because traveling is very important to my success in life. And so I get feedback from all these different people, and this one lady says, "Here we go again," like rolling her eyes like that. And you know, that was her definition of traveling. And I was like, oh wow. That struck me, and I wanted to know why. You know, I was like, that's pretty interesting. And so, and then I wrote it down, and then we began to talk about it. And I said, well, words also, not just images, just words themselves are very important how we define them. And let me give you an example. Traveling, definition number one, the thing you do when you're rich and you got lots of money and lots of time. That's the author. I mean, the author of that was my father. I grew up listening to that.
Really?
Programmed. And once again, another metaphor, you are what you are, how you program yourself. Okay. So this is my whole thing with words and raising the consciousness level. Here's another definition. Traveling, the art form, which is education in the most fun way possible. The art form, which is education done in the most fun way possible. Fun, education, art, traveling. My definition. I decided that was going to be what I thought about traveling. Do I think education was important to me? Absolutely. Do I like to have fun? Even more, you know, and I combined the energies to my definition, and that's what fueled me to do more and more. And guess what? The more I got, the more confidence I got at it, and it has led to a richer, fuller, more complete life for myself. And all right, so they listened to this, and I went back to the lady who said that, and I said, "What is the thing that's so negative about traveling to you?" So there's so many obstacles, you know, that I have to overcome before I can take a trip and stuff. And then there's this other guy sitting down, and he starts talking about, I asked the question, I was like, how can we turn that around? How can we turn that situation around, these obstacles? What can we do about that? And then this guy that was named Stanley was sitting there, and he started talking about some kind of video game with a ninja. And he said, I forget the name because I'm not a gamer. But he said the ninja takes all the obstacles inside the game and he uses them to bounce off of, to go further into his journey. And I was like, wow, I'm blessed with the right people at the right time. The juices started flowing. And I looked back at the group and I said, so how can we make a metaphor that could change her perception of traveling? Who made the metaphor? The lady who said it. She sat there and paused and looked and she says, we can turn obstacles into stepping stones. And I was like,
she had her aha moment.
She had an aha moment. And that's what happens in the process of raising our consciousness to the very definitions of the words that we use on a daily basis to operate on. The power of words is ridiculous.
It is.
It's insane. And so what I like to do is really talk about these things. And I come from doing it from a photography perspective, and a traveling perspective, because it's the energy that has fueled me to want to see how to turn obstacles into stepping stones. How, you got to be rich, all the things that people tell you have to be and you have to do, you have to figure out a way to use those negative things. You have to learn how to take negative energy and convert it into positive fuel. Basically, it's possible if you really concentrate on what you want. There's no doubt in my mind because I live that. And, it's about each person though, finding their own, realizing their own obstacles and seeing what it is. So raising the consciousness to what we say on a daily basis, the words that we use, the metaphors that we use, I think is kind of my personal way about going into coaching, because I want to be that mirror. Like in the beginning of this video, I want to be the person that says, oh, I didn't realize I had a dark spot on my shirt and all that on my, face here and my hair's all messed up. I'm just trying to serve as a mirror. And I know we a lot of times just don't want to look into that. But if we really want to see what's blocking us, sometimes we have to do it. If we have a goal, and another metaphor that I used as well as a coach is basically I'm just a source of light. But me included, if I want to go and do something bigger than what I'm currently doing, I must make myself vulnerable. I must be willing to take chances. Yeah. I must be willing to get out of my comfort zone. And let's say the word failure, because that's in everybody's head. We must say, screw failure. It's part of things. And we're going to turn our failures into positive stepping stones.
Absolutely.
But that is basically what I have to say as a coach. That's what I try to do. But first and foremost, a person has to make their mind up that they really want to go there. And if they do, anything's possible.
Absolutely. And it's so beautiful. And I think we could be here like forever just talking. As I said in the beginning, I know you have so much wisdom, so many stories to tell, and such a wonderful perspective on things that, so many people could benefit from. And definitely, I would love to bring you back to share more of that.
Sure.
And in wrapping this up today, tell people, first of all, something that you want them to know, like some sort of advice that you want to share with them, as well as where they can find you.
I recently, as a photographer and even as a coach, I'm operating as two platforms here working. I have Self-Discover Coach. That is a Instagram account. I can send that information to you. As well, I have People and Places Photography on Instagram as well, and you can follow me there. You can look up People and Places Photography on Facebook, and you can find me there as well. You can just send me a message, tell me who you are, whatever it is that is on your heart. just lay it out there. Don't be afraid or don't have shame. Don't think that somebody, there's so many people, including myself, we need somebody to ask life's big questions to. We've been shamed. We've been made to feel guilty. We've been made to told that something's wrong with us. You're crazy. That's usually the black sheep. And, and if you're that person and you felt like nobody can understand me, nobody listens to me, I understand you. I've been there. And so I don't care what your question is. It's not a stupid question. I don't care what your thought process is. You got to lay it out there, because that's what's going to bring clarity to your life, resolution, so that you can move forward, and that's how I like to lead myself. Hey, ask whatever question is on your mind. I don't care what it is, whatever that big question is, lay it out there. So if you have any big questions, or they don't have to be big, they can just be weird, to you. I don't care. There is no weird is good. They have a slogan in Austin, Texas. I lived there for years. Keep Austin weird. That's what makes it special. Being weird is what makes us special. So be you. You're going to be weird. You're going to be weird if you're yourself. You will. If you're not weird, you're not being you. Yeah, and own it. And own it. And make the most of your time. Another thing I would say, make the most of your time. Like, realize that you're doing something right now. You're watching this video. You're listening to some music. You're watching something on TV. You're doing something right now. Don't ever say, I don't have time. I can't stand when people say, I don't have time. You have nothing but time. It's how you use that time.
Maximize.
It's how you use that time. You can do so much more than what you would ever dream of if you know how to use that time wisely. That's what I have to say about time, because I have heard that's my life so much. Oh, I don't have time right now. I don't have time right now. Okay, it's not true. It's an illusion. So if you want to figure out how to get more time, then just make the decision and ask yourself the question, how can I make more out of my time? And if you ask yourself that question, the answer will start coming to you.
Absolutely. That's beautiful, James. Well, thank you once again, for being here.
Awesome. Thank you
for all this, and definitely look forward to having you again.
Yeah, for sure. I felt like I couldn't give a lot right now because just circumstances being new, but I hope that there was something good come out of it. And thank you for inviting me again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Awesome.